This is Talk Business and Politics with Roby Brock.
And welcome to the program. I'm Roby Brock. We are glad to have you with us. Hope that you're having a great Memorial Day weekend. We appreciate you tuning in. We begin today with KATV's senior political reporter, and she is the lead investigator for KATV's 7 on Your Side team. Maureen Glisovic joins me now. Maureen, thank you for being here, and let's begin with the politics of COVID-19 this week. Governor Asa Hutchinson visited the White House to meet with President Donald Trump. What was that all about?
Well, you know, the governor had an opportunity to speak with the president, and he touted just that the entire state's been open for business. We have 60-some plants and production lines that have not shut down throughout the state. So he was very proud to show the president that, Arkansas is open for business. Now, he also mentioned the fact that Arkansas can't grow the economy on its own if you've got places like New York and other states that are more severely affected who aren't actually opening. So they talked about that, but there was also mention about mail-in voting or absentee voting at some point as we get closer to the November election. A lot of different states, Republican governors and Democratic governors, they're all looking at ways to allow the people to vote, but in a safe manner, just depending on what the crisis is at that moment. And so, the president has said that, there's all types of fraud that could occur when you're talking about mail-in voting. He believes that one could print out as many ballots as they want on the same type of paper. You don't know where the signatures are coming from. And so the governor actually the president rather, asked Governor Hutchinson what he thought about it. Of course, the governor highlighted that we have voter ID laws here in the state, and that he mentioned that he was open to doing no excuse absentee voting. So that's something that he has said in the past that he's open to doing, but of course he has not made it very clear on whether he would actually do it. He's mentioned over and over again that he plans on waiting till we get closer to November and reassess the state of the health of folks here in Arkansas.
And I would point out that the president has voted absentee in a very recent election there, so for what that's worth. Let's shift and talk about the Arkansas legislature. They have certainly conducted oversight over the spending of the federal money and the state money that is being directed towards the COVID-19 pandemic here in Arkansas. They seem to be, to some extent, how's best to say it, a little irritated with how the executive branch is conducting some of its business. They're not always in lockstep with the governor in this executive branch.
That's absolutely accurate. We've got the CARES Act Steering Committee. So you've got some lawmakers, and then others that are part of this committee who are tasked with spending or appropriating $1.25 billion. Now, nearly, if not half already of that has already been appropriated to different agencies in the state. But that's also not the only amount of money federally that the state has received in relief funds or COVID-19 related relief funds. And so mid last week, the Steers Committee had met, and so they were talking about requesting an entire rundown of just how many federal dollars the state has received, because up until mid last week, legislators had no idea just how much money from different pools or different pots are coming into the state. And so we do know that other requests have been made by different agencies. We've had the Department of Health had requested and estimated it could take $71 million for them to do contact tracing and continue buying equipment, and I see that the CARES Act Committee decided to give about $51 million. So they aren't exactly just giving what everybody's requesting. They truly are assessing this, and I know that there are quite a few legislators who are just want to make sure they're doing the right thing and spending the taxpayer dollars appropriately and sending it to where it needs to go. So they're definitely not just rolling over and saying, okay, the request came in, they want 150, we're going to give them 150. They are actually taking a look at what they're appropriating.
And certainly there was that big blow up on Thursday where 2 executive branch agency directors declined to show up for that legislative hearing, and that forced them to issue some subpoenas to compel them to testify. We'll watch how that plays out in the future. I'm just going to read you a headline of our story from last Thursday and ask you to give some context to it. Arkansas sees largest one-day spike in new COVID-19 cases at 455. Still, youth sports and camps can reopen. Does that strike you as odd?
You know, one could say it's odd. The other, side of the coin, we are testing more, is what the Department of Health has said. I think that everyone's going to probably assess their own situation at home, whether they feel it's safe to go back. You've got limited contact sports is what they've allowed to start back up June 1st. So you're talking about swimming, volleyball, baseball, softball, those things that you're not really close contacts with when you're playing with others or other athletes. I understand that the more the high contact sports, we won't even be hearing about that until at least June 30th. So your football, your basketball, those types of high contact sports, we're not going to know anything. So it is very interesting. And I think until we get all of the numbers and really are able to see how many we're testing, what the actual result of that batch was, those things, could one argue it's too soon for contact sports regardless of whether it's limited, low, or high contact? Yes. Could one argue that we're now testing more? Sure. So I think it just depends on how you want to interpret that information.
Well, interpret we do. She is Maureen Glisovic, senior political reporter at KATV. She also leads the 7 on Your Side team. Thank you so much, Maureen, for being here.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me on.
Stick around. More headlines to come right after this.